We like to keep things positive here at Tabletop Sydney, and we do like to give Games Workshop a bit of a benefit of the doubt when it comes to game design and other new features. But sometimes you have to call a spade a spade. Over this week, Harrowdeep's pricing has been released, and I think it's needless to say most people are pretty disappointed. Harrowdeep is 65 British pounds. In Australian dollars, we're paying 165. That's over 30% of a price increase over Diachasm. Now, where it gets a little bit more messed up is if you calculate 165 Australian dollars and convert it with today's exchange rate, it's actually 89 British pounds. I actually found a place that will ship that box to Australia for 15 pounds. So if I buy it from London, ship it from London to Sydney, I actually save about 18 Australian dollars. It's a little messed up. I know the argument. Everything in Australia just costs more. Look at video games, you're paying a good Australia tax on top of everything. We're paying over $100 for a video game compared to the US down at sort of $60, $70. But I did want to compare like to like. So I looked at a similar product in Star Wars Legion. In Australia, if you wanted to buy the starter set for Star Wars Legion, you can get it from a lot of retailers for about 130 Australian dollars. Decent price. Went to the UK, you can get it from Amazon UK for £73.50. And if you convert that to Australian dollars, it's actually 136 Australian dollars. I looked at the US. In the US, you're buying it for, well, used to at least price changes, around $100 for the game. Convert that to Australian dollars, 136 Australian dollars here. So in Star Wars Legion, you're paying pretty much the same price around the world. If the price goes up somewhere, it goes up equally. So an Australian will pay equivalent, obviously, here a little bit give and take here and there, to a US player and then to a UK player. That's fair. Underworlds is not the case. We're paying significantly more for the exact same game experience here. Now, this video isn't about being negative. I honestly wanted to share my thoughts here because I want to hear what other people say as well. I have two main issues. One is that we aren't aware of why the price increased. Perhaps goods went up, the cost of creating the game went up, shipping costs might have gone up. But unless Games Workshop communicates to us why this price point has increased, we're going to assume the worst. And the worst is obviously they have shareholders they want to appease, they want to increase their margin profits, and they want to be a bit greedy. In reality, it might be something a bit more realistic, something we can accept, but if they aren't telling us what that is, then we don't know what to believe. The second reason, and the main reason I'm a little upset, is that this creates a barrier to entry for new players. Games Workshop with the Rivals format have said that they're going to invest in bringing new players in the hobby, which is absolutely the right call to keep the game alive and healthy. By increasing the cost of the introduction box, because this is the first box they're going to buy, it's got the latest rules, the latest models, they're creating a barrier. So they're doing one good thing and then creating one bad thing to stop players from joining. Most games create an intro starter box that is pretty cheap, pretty cost efficient. They might even lose money on it with the idea they can draw you into the game, you enjoy it, you have a great time, and you go out and buy more expansions to really grow your collection and your love for the game. They have not done that here. My main issue is in Sydney right now, in our group, we have a large gaming group we've built up over the last 12 months. We have players that are not buying this expansion, existing Underworlds players not buying it. With these players, they'll probably still come along to our meetups, and they're still great guys to hang out with. They'll play their existing stuff they've already purchased, but over time they'll get bored of it, right? And they'll see a new game. Maybe it is Star Wars Legion, maybe it's X-Wing. There's a lot of other tabletop games out there. And that'll be the new shiny thing that they're going to get invested into. And then our group will slowly die. And so we're faced with a choice either to now, when we've got all of our members together, move on to a new game, or slowly bleed out and then eventually having to move to a different game anyway. That's assuming players leave, obviously. We don't know. You've got to kind of predict the future here. I think that's not very healthy for the game. It kind of leads to a death spiral. Now, a death spiral is a term you see a lot in video games. It's what happens when your game loses critical mass to have the game be a fun experience. For example, in a video game, you go in, you join a match, and you queue match into people. Matchmaking, for example, is this a term they use? I should use the correct term. When you matchmake with people, you put with people of similar skill, and you put together in a timely fashion. When a game doesn't have a large player base, it sacrifices one of those two things. It will either pair you with players that are way better than you or way weaker than you, and the game is not that fun, or you'll have a very long queue time, and you will wait ages for a game. Both of those are not great for your experience. You don't enjoy the game as much, and even if you do like the game, you don't like what it's become and you quit. And that last bit, when that game hits that critical mass where it can no longer sustain that queue, the game dies very quickly. With Underworlds, it's a bit different because I can't really have a weekly meetup session with someone from the UK or from America like you can online. It's all about your local community and maintaining a number of players there to keep the game interesting. Right now in our meetup group, we have around, I'd say 10 to 12 people show up every week, at least before COVID. We'll see where it is now that we've sort of had 4 months in our houses. If Harrowdeep makes 4 of those players leave, 8's still pretty good, right? We can still have great fun there. But if we aren't bringing new players into that group, and some players are going to naturally churn, that's a very normal thing with these board games, they're going to leave, our numbers will dwindle to 7, 6, 4, 3. And at that point, no matter how much I love Underworlds, going and meeting up with 3 people every week kind of gets a bit dull. You try other games, and then eventually that last few players, no matter how much they love the game, will move on. I want to avoid that. I love growing the community, I love meeting new people, and I wish I could continue to do that for Underworlds because I love the game. I am still going to buy the box. I do love Underworlds, but if there's no one left to play with, if there's no new players coming in, then there's not much I can really do. So anyway, I thought I'd share my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I think it's a pretty topical thing. In general, though, I want to remain hopeful. I think there's a lot of work we can do as a community to grow the game, but I think that I'd love at least some communication from the G-dubs on their future and how they see this game evolving, because I want to go on that journey with them, but when there's radio silence, it's hard to get invested. Thanks for watching.